Enough deception. The bitter truth is better than a beautiful illusion. In a world that bombards us daily with messages like be the best, always be happy, achieve all your dreams, smile no matter what, a different voice emerged, a quiet voice, yet one that felt like a slap that jolts a dreamer awake from a rosy illusion and brings them back to solid ground. That voice was Mark Manson's, the writer who chose to tell us the truth as it is, unpolished, unfiltered, and grounded in raw realism. Mark says not everyone can be extraordinary. There are winners and losers in society, and some of it isn't fair or your fault. Life is not a parade of epic achievements. In fact, much of life is mundane, and that's where the journey begins. The truth we don't want to hear. Since childhood, we've been fed illusions like, you can do anything, all you need is to believe in yourself. But that's only half the truth. Yes, self-belief matters, but what about effort? What about failure? What about the truth that says you won't get everything you want? In today's world, everyone is chasing success, money, fame. And if you're not, you're seen as a failure, or someone without ambition. But are these the values truly worth our devotion? Should we measure ourselves by what we own or by who we are? Stop. You don't need to be positive all the time. The book's main idea is shocking. Excessive positivity can be toxic. Mark isn't calling for pessimism, he's calling for realism. Life is filled with pain, suffering, failure, and disappointment. Ignoring these realities and trying to cover them up with fake positivity is escapism, and it leads to a never-ending loop of frustration. Because you're constantly chasing happiness, and any emotion outside of that makes you feel like a failure. Your values shape everything. Not every problem in your life deserves your attention, and not everything should spark your concern. Here, Mark poses the golden question: what is truly worth your attention? The answer lies in your values. If your values are shallow, like fame, wealth, or always being right, you'll live a life full of anxiety, tension, and disappointment. But if your values are meaningful, like honesty, responsibility, personal growth, you're on the right path. Freedom isn't doing whatever you want, it's choosing what you're willing to suffer. For people crave freedom, but they forget that freedom isn't the absence of responsibility, it's the ability to bear the consequences of your choices. Choosing your path in life means accepting all the pain and hardship that come with it. There's no life without suffering, but we do get to choose what kind of suffering we're willing to endure. Mark invites us not to run from pain, but to choose the pain that's worth living for. The story of a failed hero who became greater than success. Mark tells the story of an unknown writer who lived in failure and poverty, but he didn't give up. He wrote books that were rejected by everyone. He kept struggling until one day he accepted the truth. I may never succeed, but I'll write because I love writing. And that was the turning point. When he stopped chasing success and started living for the value that truly mattered to him, that's when everything changed. Choose your suffering. Because in the end, pain is inevitable. In a world full of noise, where life bombards us with endless expectations, from overwhelming success to perfect relationships to a life packed with achievements, Mark Manson steps forward to say simply, choose your suffering because you will suffer, whether you like it or not. Yes, this is life. It's not a paradise on earth, nor an absolute nightmare. It's a harsh blend of beauty and pain, success and failure, love and loss. So the real question is not how do I avoid pain, but rather which pain is worth enduring. Suffering isn't your enemy. Chapter, it's your path. Everything in life comes at a cost. Want a healthy body? Then get ready for painful workouts and strict diets. Want a successful relationship? Be prepared to understand, forgive, endure, and communicate deeply, or even when you're exhausted. Want to be a writer? Then prepare for rejection, anxiety, and occasional loneliness. Here, Mark teaches one of his greatest lessons. If you can learn to love the struggle that comes with your goal, then you've chosen the right path. Don't try. Mark tells the story of writer Charles Bukowski, who became famous after the age of 50. On his tombstone, a strange phrase is engraved. Don't try. Don't try. Why? Because trying to be something often implies that you're not that thing already. When you say, I want to be rich, you're actually saying, I'm poor now. When you say, I want to be loved, it means you believe you're unloved now. Mark doesn't invite you to despair. He invites you to understand. Don't seek love. Be someone who is worthy of love. Don't chase success. Live by values that naturally attract success. True change doesn't come from the outside, but from within. Responsibility isn't blame. Sometimes we're victims of circumstances beyond our control, a difficult family, a toxic environment, or painful events. But Mark says you may not be responsible for what happened, but you are responsible for what happens next. That's the difference between someone who stays stuck in victimhood and someone who rises and says, I am responsible for my life and I will make something out of it. Face your fears instead of burying them. We all fear something: failure, rejection, loss. But running away doesn't make those fears disappear. It makes them grow in the dark. Mark tells us the solution isn't to deny fear, but to face it and ask, what are you here to teach me? Fire can be a compass, guiding you toward what truly matters. Are you afraid to fail? Maybe that's because what you're aiming for really matters. Are you afraid of love? Maybe because you've been hurt before, but it's still worth it. Death teaches us how to live, and wisdom lies in uncertainty. We all think about how to live, what to achieve, how to find love and success, but we rarely ask, what if I die tomorrow? No, it's not a dramatic line, it's the essence of the idea. When you think of death, you start to live. Mark Manson talks about a shocking moment in his life, losing a close friend in a sudden accident. That day wasn't just the end of someone's life, it was the beginning of a new awareness. Death isn't the end, but the silent teacher whispering, your time is limited, so what will you do with it? When you think about death, the trivial things no longer matter. It doesn't matter if you failed an interview, lost someone's approval, or haven't succeeded yet. Death gives meaning to everything because it reminds you that everything is temporary. Death teaches us how to live, and wisdom lies in uncertainty. We all think about how to live, what to achieve, how to find love and success, but we rarely ask, what if I die tomorrow? No, it's not a dramatic line, it's the essence of the idea. When you think of death, you start to live. Mark Manson talks about a shocking moment in his life, losing a close friend in a sudden accident. That day wasn't just the end of someone's life, it was the beginning of a new awareness. Death isn't the end, but the silent teacher whispering, your time is limited, so what will you do with it? When you think about death, the trivial things no longer matter. It doesn't matter if you failed an interview, lost someone's approval, or haven't succeeded yet. Death gives meaning to everything because it reminds you that everything is temporary. Doubt is a gift, not a weakness. In a society that worships self-confidence and absolute certainty, Mark comes forward and says, I don't know, and I'm okay with that. Yes, we don't know everything. We doubt our decisions, our ideas, even our beliefs sometimes, and that's not weakness. It's the beginning of wisdom. Doubt means you're thinking, evolving, growing. Those who think they have all the answers have stopped learning. Boundaries are not selfish. Their self-respect. Mark says, I learned to say no. No to people who drain my energy. No to fake compliments that make me feel dishonest. No to paths that don't align with who I am. Saying no isn't cruelty. It's respect for yourself. Because when you say yes to everything, you slowly lose yourself. True freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Mark reminds us again, true freedom isn't the absence of limits, it's conscious discipline. It's having the freedom to choose and the strength to face the consequences. It's choosing the harder path because it's the right one. That's real power. That's real dignity. The final wisdom, don't give your attention to what doesn't deserve it. The essence of the subtle art of not giving off is not to be cold or careless. It's to be aware of what truly deserves your attention. Mark says, you can't care about everything or you'll burn out. So choose your battles. Care only about what truly matters. This isn't a call for laziness, but a call for focus. Not for apathy, but for clarity. In the end, live simply, live honestly, live by your values. By the time you finish this book, you don't just feel like you've learned the secret to success. You begin to understand life. You no longer see yourself as a victim, but as a leader. You stop chasing happiness and start living it. In a moment of honesty, in a heartfelt word, in a brave stand, in a simple decision that feels like you. Mark Manson didn't come to give you a ready-made formula for happiness. He came to shake you up a bit and to say, oh, my friend, don't live in illusion. Live life as it really is. Don't aim to be perfect, to aim to be real, and don't care about everything. Care only about what truly matters.